everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and today I'm going to start off with a little bit of stitching. You don't see me do a lot of stitching because I am very slow at this, and so it's a little bit tough to do on camera. One thing that I will definitely suggest though is to not have a super long piece of thread, because it's not a huge deal to have to start and stop, but the longer your thread is, the more chances it'll get tangled up on either the die cut, like just you saw a moment ago, or get tangled up with each other behind or in front of your project. But the stitching is really simple. It's just sort of a pinwheel, kind of the spokes on a tire. You're just going from one of the holes on that outer circle to the center circle, back out, and you just repeat that. And so it's really easy to do. As far as stitching goes, you don't need to know any fancy stitches. For me, though, it just takes time. And on the back, I like to just put my needle under a few lines of stitching and then loop my needle through that that kind of loop to form a knot, and that will secure it. So I forgot to mention, I was using the DMC Metallic Embroidery Floss, which Spellbinders sells, which is amazing because that stuff is gorgeous. And it's a little bit harder to appreciate with the black thread, but the gold, silvers, there's a white sort of holographic one. I got the 4-pack that's sort of Christmas colors. It's got the red and white and black, and then it's also got red and green. So there are some really nice color combinations that you can get, and the shine on it is just really amazing. The thread drapes beautifully. It's not too stiff, but it's also not super floppy either. And actually, I also forgot to mention as I was stitching that I doubled up on this thread because I think there's only 3 strands on it. And so I doubled it up because I just want the stitching to be a little bit more prominent on these new stitch dies. So as I cut down to make my 5x5 cards here, I am just pulling out some gel printing that I did, and so I haven't, at this point, hadn't decided between the 2 prints that I pulled out. Actually, one is an actual print that I was going for, and then the other one was just a waste sheet of rice paper that I was brayering paint onto in order to clean off my brayer. And a lot of times that can be really, really pretty, so I never throw those away. And you know, it's a nice way to kind of use up all of your ink. Why waste that when it could be something really, really gorgeous? So you might already be familiar with the Stitched alphabet, which released, was it last year? Has it been that long? Maybe it was last year. But now they have released the full set of numbers and a set of punctuation marks. So you can really now form any phrase that you want because you have it all now. And for today's, I'll be making 2 cards. For my cards today, I'm going to use the hashtag because I think that's something that's pretty common these days if you're on social media, especially maybe Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter. Hashtagging is fairly common, and so I thought that I would just create with that to keep everything simple. I'll have another video where I use all 3 sets on a single card, so a punctuation mark, a number, and some alphabet. Now, ultimately, I ended up going with my waste sheet because you might have thought it was a little bit strange that my earlier print, the more pinkish one, had it was circular. And the reason is because the gel plate that I have is circular, and when I first got into just wanting to experiment with gel printing, I didn't want to spend a lot of money, and the cheapest gel plate that I could get was an 8x8 circle. And it's interesting, and it's large enough to where I can still get like a matte size for a 5x5 card like a Mente or USA2. I think I can fit a 5x7 card probably. But the problem is I had already die cut into that particular print, so I didn't have the full circle to work with. And that left me with a corner, which I think might have been interesting, but ultimately I decided against it. And so I'll set that aside. I won't throw it away. I'll still use it because I think there's, I can still either use it to frame or mat another card with, or I like die cutting out of my gel prints too. So that's another fun way to use your gel prints, is just to die cut from them because they're just great texture. So with this first card, I am going to create the sentiment, happiness is #crafting. And so with the word crafting, I have it stamped and kind of cut out this banner, but I want it to flow with the hashtag. So I cut the end of it off so that it sort of matches that angle of the hashtag. And then later I'll discover that it actually nestles into the hashtag. You'll see that in a moment. It nestles right into it really, really well. So ultimately, I'll actually fit it into the hashtag itself. I love the size of these stitched alphabet and now the numbers and punctuation, because they are really fabulous for just using them by themselves as your focal point. You don't need much more beyond them, but it will make it a little bit more challenging if you do want to spell out a longer word, perhaps. So there is that consideration. The letters, it just depends on the letter, but for most of the letters, now I forget the terminology for it, but basically, if the letter is A, for example, your letter A is going to be about 1.5 inches tall, thereabouts. So some letters that have, ascenders and descenders, they're going to be taller than the letter A, just depending on how, whether or not it's got the descenders, or if it's a taller letter like the letter H, for example. The hashtag here, though, is pretty tall. It is just over 2 inches, so maybe 2 1/8 or so. And the numbers as well are around that scale also, so about 2 inches, 2 1/8. So I'm not looking at the letters, the alphabet in front of me right now, but my guess is that the alphabet will probably be, the tallest one will probably be around that 2-inch mark as well. This one I'm going different, very different than my first lavender card, and it's actually going to be a holiday card. So I stitched black onto this gold mirror card, but I really want the hashtag to stand out. So everything else on my 5x5 card is going to be just black and white. And I love that this also comes, these sets also, they all come with their own shadow layer or bubble layer, so you can really make it stand out from the background. And I love backgrounds with typography, but they can be a little bit busy, so having that bubble or that shadow layer really helps. So this is reading hashtag happy holidays. So just something a little bit different, a little bit maybe a little bit modern, a little bit fun for the younger folks that I know. And then my first card, here's a close-up look of that one. This is hashtag, or happiness is hashtag crafty, which I thought was appropriate to use with a gel print background. So you can see two very different, very simple cards. When I have a lot of time invested in something like stitching, I do like to keep everything else simple so that you can really appreciate the stitching because it stands out more, since that's where a lot of the detail is. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye!